Welcome back to another live session on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. As always, I am one of your hosts, Zachary Small, joined by the other host, Anthony Miglorino. What's up, Anthony?
What's going on, Zach? How we doing, brother?
Oh, we're doing. And today we've got a special guest. First time Oak and Rock Fatherhood guest. Yes. Very long time Dad's Day panelist. That is Tim Dolan. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Panelist, I feel so honored, right?
It's professional, awesome. Brother. But it's good to see you, and it's good for people to see you. The world needs to see your face and hear your words. Twitter is awesome, but on this platform, they get to see the man behind, the audio. And so with that, Tim is a new father. He has a 7-month-old girl, former Western Illinois collegiate football player, which sounds so tough, man. You're sitting there, married, going for your business management degree, and more than anything, a man who prioritizes being a father. And
yes,
at 24 years old, married with a 7-month-old, while going to school, you are balancing a lot, and yet you're making time to jump on all of our Dad's Day spaces, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. You are always there crushing it and making a lot of waves, man. And at what, 6'3", 6'5"? You
6'5".
have a big
Let's get that straight.
6'5". All right, 6'5". Let's get it. You are making some waves. That's actually Tim's fist on the thumbnail with Anthony's hand. Their fist. That's what that looks like. But Tim, what did I miss? What did I not bring to the table? You're a life coach. There's one. And so you're running that. You got your podcast. What else? Life coach, podcaster, dad. Go.
We're doing a bunch, I think, and this is going to be about the whole topic of priorities, right? And making sure you have that balance. But yeah, for sure, I have my bachelor's degree in business management. I'm getting my master's right now. Football's done, right? And so now it's just I make this joke a lot, but late years of blood, sweat, and tears with football paid for 6 months free rent, right? So I was in a unique time where I got to be a stay-at-home dad right when my daughters were born. And I was like, okay, my goal is to be there as much as I can be for my kids, right? So how do I start building the life that can sustain that? And I'm trying to avoid the corporate America world as much as I can if possible. But so that's where I was like, okay, I can start helping people online. And for a long time, I had a calling to coach, right? I always like talking to my friends about life improvement, self-improvement, and things like that. And there's a lot that I have gone through myself with parenting, and there's a higher calling, right? But I have found that I can get a broader message, affect more people, and help more, driven young guys or whatever else the demographic may be through talking online, sharing on Twitter like you guys, joining your spaces, learning, and just sharing your story and what you can add to it. So I'm really passionate about that and sharing the story, and I love the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I just found out you were 24 years old, and that kind of messed me up. I'm not going to lie. Because we've been speaking to you on Twitter, and I assumed you were in your 30s. And we've had a conversation on Dad's Day. Somebody said, who was that guy who said that the world is getting better? And that was me. And when I talk to young men who are 24 years old, who have as much insight and have as much passion about being a father, man, that's where I get those statements. That's where I see the future is going to be bright. The future is going to be better because young men like you and I got to say young men because I'm almost twice your age, man. And again, that messed me up a little bit. I didn't know you were that young, Tim, but you are doing a hell of a job as a 24-year-old, brother.
I really do appreciate it, and the big thing too is not just having these philosophical discussions, but also what is the action, right? Zach, you talk a lot about the receipts, so one of my goals is to do what you say you're going to do, live that life. And I'm trying to learn all this stuff kind of preemptively. My daughter's 7 months old now. But there's going to be a lot more, input that I can give to that and show that balance, that it's not just like you talk about all the time. It's about your timeline, not your bloodline, not the timeline. Right. So keeping that in mind, keeping them a priority as the topic of the conversation is right, is important. So if we can not just talk about it, but live that life, that's awesome.
What I love to see about this on Dad's Day, we have to balance this with a lot of speakers. And so it was almost mandatory to get you here because we can just let you riff and say all those things that we're trying to get out. Cause all three of us are trying to share and we've got to there's 4 other guys coming in and we don't have an hour. We have an hour here, but it's just the three of us with us prioritizing you, and your voice. Cause Anthony and I, this is what we do. But when we have a guest on, it's that perspective we're looking to hear. And so I kind of want to pull this back a little and kind of look into your world and how you're coming at this. Because we've been doing this a long time and we've made this a part of our brand. We've made this a part of who we are as men. This is the hill that we're going after. This is the one we're climbing, the one that we'll die on. This is the one that we will defend. And so with that, I've shared my story. This is something that I thought about doing from the very beginning. When I was a young kid, I was thinking about this. And I'm wondering what your story is. Is being a father something that you had always wanted to do? Is being an intentional father something you came across? What brought you to the point where you care this much about this topic?
So yes, this is something I've always wanted to do because of different things in my past, and I'm more than happy to share those things. That the overarching goal was to always be there at the end of the day for my kids. You know, I didn't know what job I'd have, I didn't know what life I was going to live, but something I told myself very young was that I was going to make it a priority to, like, my framework was like the dinner table. I'll be there for dinner. I'll always be there at the end of the day, spend some time with them. They will know me. They will have a deep relationship with me. That was always the main goal. And then when I came closer to this time where I was going to become this leader, this man, this father that I've always wanted to be, right? I have all these things that I know I want to do, but it's like, how do I get there? How do I transition from just student athlete, not really too many cares, right? Just kind of going along, to man of responsibility, purpose, leadership, like they can live up to these grandiose, pillars that I kind of set up for myself. And there was a big transformational process once the moment I discovered, hey, I'm getting married. Hey, we're going to have a daughter. This is it. There's no more time, right? Now you need to become this person. And so putting a lot of those tools into practice really helped me. And that's just what the journey is right now. It's me just give me all the information. Where else can I look? I still have to, I make the joke to my wife that I can't read a lot, but I do have to get your book list because I haven't put like reading as much as I should have for those specific, parenting tools. But yeah, engaging in these spaces online with you guys has been game changing. I've talked about, like, when I came in here, I had a different view. I didn't think corporal punishment, hitting your kids was that bad of a thing, and it took you guys talking about it so confidently, having a different lifestyle, a little different home environment for me to be like, oh, I don't have to do that, So that's something that I think is an amazing benefit to what you guys do, amazing testament that, like, it doesn't take much. It's just the presentation of a new idea and the application. This is how it works. This is how it's worked for us. It is possible, So that's really what I like about what we're doing. But essentially, I guess, to get back to my story, to get back to your question, for sure. So in my life, my parents divorced, separated, whatever, before I could even really remember. I was like 2 or 3. Essentially, my mom never spoke an ill word about my dad. They always had a really good relationship together, right? Even apart, it was very civil. And what she would do is she would kind of just, like I said, never speak ill on him and make him seem kind of larger than life. He was an ex-Marine, former Marine, right? He didn't get disavowed or anything, but he was a Marine, and, he was a cop. And I was like, oh, he's a hero. Like, he's someone out there doing the thing. He's helping people. Like, that's awesome, right? And he just wasn't around in my life, really. He would pick me up, me and my older brother, sometimes like once every other month, right, for like a little weekend, and that varied, So and there would be times, and I don't necessarily remember doing this all day, but my mom could tell me when we talk about it. She was saying there were times when I would be like sitting at the couch, looking out the window, like all day long, waiting for him to come because he said he was going to pick me up, and then he wouldn't show. And she said I was like devastated after, And I remember times in my life when, like, things were really hard. I fought with my mom or whatever it was, and I would be like very hurtful inside. I was like, I really wanted his presence. I really wanted him there to. I had questions. I had like why is this happening? Like, and I wasn't necessarily in the right. Maybe I was just being a little kid. I didn't get what I want, whatever it was. But I remember times when I was very emotional and I didn't have him there, and I wished he was there. So. And the thing is, when I would go with him, it was a really fun activity. We'd do whatever else. We'd go see a movie, whatever. It was great times, only great times. So I was building him up, and he is this hero of a man. And any attention I can get, any affection is God sent, right? And it actually, I've talked to you guys before, but I'm a huge nerd. Like, I don't watch sports too much on my own. I engage.
We know.
Yeah, I make it pretty evident. And so. I never had any dreams of being in the NFL. I never watched the sports myself. But when I went to my dad's house, occasionally he'd have a game on, and he's big into Notre Dame. He would get the speakers out clapping like they can hear him and everything. And so I was like, okay, Dad really loves this thing, right? And when the opportunity came to play flag football in middle school, I was like, let me sign up. I want to do that, right? I think, subconsciously it was like, if I start playing football, he'll be around more. He'll, just engage with me more. It'll be awesome. And to an effect that worked. Like, he started showing up to the games. He was like, it was mainly the games, but it's like, I did see him more, And then I get in 8th grade, we had this little 8th grade retreat, and I get a letter from him that says, "Hey, it's time to grow up, time to be a man now. It's time for you to come live with me. I'm going to help you be a man and whatever else." And I was just really excited. I was like, "Oh, wow. Like, this is it. Like, wow, that's awesome." And this is the big reason I know there's like levels to this. And like, so I had a dead president in my life, and he was there. Right. And I'll get into the relationship right now, but I think it's an important distinction, because there are people that don't even know the person's name. There are people that person is there, but just abusive all the time. Right. So I'm very, even with what I've had and the stress I've gone through and everything that it's affected me, I'm still happy that he was there and I had that relationship. And that's what my mom didn't want me to go with him in high school, but she let me go because she never knew her dad, and she knew that messed her up. So she wanted me to have at least something with him. Right. So I go live with him and throughout high school. Right. And essentially that first year he's working nights. I'm basically like kind of like by myself, just frozen dinners every month. I mean, every night for like that first freshman year. I don't learn too much. There's a stepmom there, and there was I have a little brother and sister that he has with her, but they were separated. They weren't living together at that point either. Something had happened that I wasn't sure about. And then just kind of as my time progressed with him, living him throughout high school, like almost each year, there were just different struggles we went through. There was a time when they came back together. It was kind of a family environment. I was with my little brother and sister every day. The stepmom was there. She was nice to me. And like we were kind of a little functioning family. But at the end of my high school career, he, again, things were splitting up. And so I saw, because of choices he made and things that he had done, the effect it was having on another family. And I could see, my little brother and sister like going through kind of the same things. Like another family is being broken. Like I didn't start together, but then they came together like sophomore, junior year. We were living together, we were making it work, and then it just kind of deteriorated. And I saw it crash and burn. And now, they're not together anymore. And it was really just this humbling process of realizing that like my hero all my life was anything but, And I think that's an important distinction for us to know from a kid's perspective. Like as parents, like you are going to be their heroes. They look up to you. But for me, it was really a pivotal moment to understand that he's a human being. He's not perfect like I've made him out to be. He has faults, he has these things, and he has a lot of places he could improve. But it's just it's a hard time, dealing with all of that, and I never understanding why. And he just had certain struggles he couldn't get over. I think it's and it could be there's things in his past and everything that affect his decisions he's making today, But again, I think we talk a lot about growing from pain and better tools to use these things instead of let them be dark clouds over us that affect us, and we can never be a better person because of it, right? So it was just, really traumatic seeing all of that. And senior year, it was like a flurry of emotions, like dealing with all that from a high school level. Like we had a really good football team and I loved everything. And it was all my friends that I met my wife in high school, great times in high school. And that was coming to a close. All the meantime, like in the background, it's like we're fighting, there's so much going on. That whole family unit was crushed, being separated. And I was spiteful for a long time. I didn't know how to process it. I would share. I'm always open to sharing my story, but back then it was more from like, my dad was an a-hole. This is why. Right. And recently it's taken a long time, but I've come to the point, and it came from a conversation with a friend who didn't have the best dad either. And he mentioned how he went to his dad, and he basically told him that like, thank you for everything that's happened. Basically just saying like I forgive you, I know it wasn't the best or whatever, but everything that happened to him, he's happy where he is now, right? He's happy everything culminated to this effect. He's gone through this journey. And I forget how he worded it. I don't want to misrepresent him, but essentially, that concept of like, having that conversation with your father, knowing they didn't do the best they could, but still being like, you gain something from it, right? So firm handshake, whatever, and then just kind of go your way. And basically that whole concept of going through your life on your own, you don't have any influences anymore. You have to decide what your worldview is and how everything that has happened to you has affected what you're doing, right? Is it positive? Is it negative? And how are you going to let that affect your today? And so, yeah, it was a big challenge just going through that. And I think, like I said, now I've come to the part where I can share that story without being so spiteful and resentful. I think we still have a lot of work to do, and I still talk to him, but that's the core. That's where the pain comes from. That's why I was like, I need to be the best dad I can, because I'm not going to let my kids not know who their dad is, not have that relationship.
That's good. I got 2 questions for you, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is what you started off with, saying how you found out about me and Zach. What made you pay attention and want to change? Was it my soothing and calm and confident voice, or was it Zach's powerful and yelling and shouting? What got to you more? This is just for our own records.
For the scoreboard. No, it was just 2 driven dudes that having the conversation all the time and putting an example. And you guys are passionate. You're passionate.
So me. So you're saying me. I got that.
Weird, Zach.
No,
It's just like a touch of gray or something. It really plays a good level for him.
So no, the real question is your story, everything you just described. Obviously, your dad did not make his kids top priority. So how are you going about this journey, right? Do you think that it affected you in a way where you have to make your daughter your top priority because you see that you missed out with your father? Or is there something else that's driving you? And I'm asking because I would love to break that that gap that we have. There's a lot of guys who didn't have a father, and they don't say, they might say, I'm going to be the best dad, but they don't do it. They can never continue on and be that dad that they didn't have. A lot of guys do not go the route that you're going. So what do you think it was that drove you to make your daughter top priority?
I think, it's a combination of that pain and trying to make sure that I don't give that to my kids, but also it's just getting older and looking at the problems we're seeing today and kind of just like analyzing what is the root of those problems, right? And I talk to other people. There are people that I talk to with homes that are together with loving parents and everything, and different backgrounds, right? That's what I love about football so much. You have like literally every background you can think of in there trying to do this thing for whatever reason. It might be a selfish reason. For the most part, it's a team effort, right? And we're bonding together. You go through a bunch of crap together. And so I really appreciated getting all these different perspectives and hearing everybody's story. There is a lot of broken home pain in that locker room, I can tell you, but there's also a lot of like good home pain. And so you get all these different things, and it's really kind of just seeing, I know how it affects us. I know that it all affects us differently, but it's the cause of these lack of values in the kids. People don't have self-love, they don't have confidence, they don't have whatever else. And it come like, for me, it was like, I needed, validation, right? And that's a common one people can get to with anything. They have a fear of rejection because, whatever else in their life. But for me, it was like, I always wanted to do something for the approval of my dad. I've always had trouble with male role models. And in football, it gave me a lot of good ones and a lot of like bad ones, because people have their own coaching philosophy. But essentially, it was like, I appreciated some of my coaches, more than my dad's, especially at the time. Yeah, my dad at the time, because of the relationship I was getting there and how it was, positive. So yeah, it's not just about the pain of the backstory, but it's also just seeing where we're at culturally as a society and how we tackle these problems. I've tweeted about it before, but it's like the front lines of these issues is in the home. It's in, man in the mirror. It's in focusing on what we can control is such a calming, bringing it back to center. This is how we can actually do something to fix anything like that, rather than, I don't know, arguing over social media or like yelling and protesting and all that stuff. Like, those things are important, but it's like, it's not how you're getting actual change. You change it in your house, in yourself, in your home, in your communities, leading by example.
That was a good answer. And one of the things I wanted to add on to that too. So raising children, making them a priority requires a lot of time. It requires like a lot of time. and your child is 7 months old. And so it's a weird balance there because they need you more than ever, but they're also kind of self-contained. And so their needs are where the baby's at, as opposed to like a 5-year-old that's running around. They need you too, but on the move and on the go. And why don't you try this thing and check that out? How are you? This is a 2-part question. How are you finding the time to balance raising the child with school, with making time for your spouse? And what is your source of motivation? What do you tap into to be like, go, 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 don't quit? And the reason I ask is a lot of people use their anger at their father still. They stick to a very angry source of motivation, which I think is a detriment. I think anger is a great emotion to use, but I think it's detrimental if that's where you have to go. You always have to be angry to get things done. I think there's a much more positive way to do it. So I'm wondering how you balance the time in your family, and when it's hard to make that time, what you use as your motivation to continue to push for that family.
Yeah. So right now we're in a job search. I talked earlier about how it's been a blessed time. I have, it's been, full course schedule, but I was going at it before with my pregnant wife. We never had the child yet, but I was doing a full football schedule. Right. And that keeps you busy from like 7 a.m. to like 7 p.m. typically. Right. Depending on the situation, and then travel and everything. So I'm familiar with, being busy. Student athlete is a huge schedule in itself. Right. And then adding the wife and then adding a kid to that, it is a lot to deal with. But so, like I said, I finished my athletic career. So it's been easy for me. Oh, I don't have to do football. Like I just have to go to school. That's been a blessing, being able to be a stay-at-home dad and watch these formative months. I can't like describe how awesome it's been to see her go from just someone that is just something that cries and like just kind of there, but now she's like playing with toys. She has a personality now. She's engaging. Like that is beautiful. So it's been really nice to have that. And now we're getting to the point, right, where I'm in the job search. I'm going to have a job here sometime soon, and it's going to be paying for the school. I'm still going to be doing school. My wife is now starting her nursing school also. So we're getting to the point where, like, I think the hardship is like as far as like time constraints, it's on its way, right? I've been in a blessed space right now, been able to explore a lot online, been able to build systems to where I can do what I want to do without it taking up all day, right? When I started in January, it took a couple, like I was like, zeroed in. It wasn't, I didn't have good strategies because I can do what I do like in an hour or so in like 5 or 10 minutes now, right? Just by having a plan and doing it more efficiently with time management as well, right? I think as a student athlete, you kind of need to have some time management if you're going to get any type of good grades. But it also stems from, as a father, like balancing all these things, the whole life balance, work-life balance. And I'm honest with my wife. I'm always talking to her because I don't want to neglect her or the family. And she's kind of my checks and balance system. I try to check myself as much as I can, but she knows me. She knows, like, I will push, like, I know I'm on a time constraint, but I'll push my work or whatever I'm doing in the moment because I just want to get it done. I want to get it done and out of the way, right? I want to hyper focus and just get it done. So sometimes I'll push that boundary. And so I always have her there, like, hey, it's been a while since we've done X or Y. Hey, it's like, we need to do this, right? And I always give her that ability to do that, but she hasn't had to really, right? I've been able to self-check pretty good. But yeah, it's always an open conversation with my wife because she's there too. She sees it, right? So having that person there to kind of just pull you back a little bit is important as well. I think an important part of it you talked about was I frame it as like, what's your why, right? And
I was going to use that. I chose to go with motivation just to mix it up because I always go to that. Like, what's your why? I was like,
yeah.
It's another way to say that.
It's a huge thing they talk about in football a lot, but and I'm sure where everywhere else as well. But so what is your why? And yeah, it's not, like I said, my goal to be there for my kids every day. That's where it stemmed from, the pain. But I'd say now, when it's getting tough, like today, woken up an hour earlier because the child decided she was like crying. She needed it. Right. And so we flipped the whole schedule earlier, and we're doing all these things of getting things done. And then I kind of just, we got home from a big, I don't know, outing. And I kind of just crashed. I didn't expect to nap. I rarely nap, but I crashed for like 2 or so hours. And then I'm like, oh, we have the podcast. Oh no.
You call those muscle naps.
Yeah. But as far as the why, for me, it's like, it needs to get done. For me, it's like this, there's no discussion about, like, I can feel how I want about it, but it's like, this thing needs to be done and it's important. So I'm going to do it. Like, it's not too complicated.
We don't follow the complexity porn. We don't think that it's impressive for you to make this as complex as possible. I like that answer. It's fucking honest. You know, like, I just do it because it has to get done.
Like, what are you going to do?
That's what men do.
If it doesn't get done, there's problems, right? And like you're either going to go through the pain or whatever now dealing with it, or you're going to deal with it later. And it's going to get worse in a lot of cases if you don't deal with it now, right? So, like, that's what I said to my wife. Like, a lot of times I will just feel like I need to get it out, I need to do it. So I do it, right? And for me, it was more so I used to procrastinate a lot when I just was a student athlete because I had the time to. It didn't matter too much. And so it's been about adjusting that time frame, because I can write a like 10-page paper in like 2 hours, like if I procrastinate that much, right? So it's about using that energy and not necessarily putting yourself in a panic state, but it's like you can do these things efficiently. You just have to present the situation. So why don't you just do them efficiently? You know, set up a system to where you can, instead of just, you know, letting them, I guess, grow or whatever else, right? So yeah, I mean, if something needs to be done, I'd like to do it. And what's interesting is there are examples in life. And my dad said to me, we were like moving, right? We moved a lot, and I was moving the couch or whatever. And he was impressed, like, that I had, like, because we were lifting a couch up some stairs, and I was like, no, just go, just do it. And he was like, oh, that's good that you have that in you. I'm like, men, us, like the Dolans, you know, like, but it's important to recognize not everyone does have that. You know, and that was a shock to me. I thought everyone kind of had that in them, that they could just call upon to, like, just do it. Like, and that's as best as I can describe it. Like, there's no other option there. Like, if you do those aren't productive, and they'll just cause more problems, you know? So
I will say, me and Zach met on the battlefield one day in the middle of the woods in Pensacola, Florida. And it got challenging. We went out hardcore. We had leaves sticking out of our head. It got a little intense for a moment.
It was a thing. It's like, you know, when like a peacock shows up and they throw out their feathers. I was like, oh, you got a bush in your head? I came out with like a pine tree sticking out the side of my head. Game on. But it's one of those things, dude. I agree with you, and I'm glad you brought that up the way you brought it up, because we don't need to really make this more complex than it is. But when we talk about it, and here's something too, a buddy of ours, his name's Cooper Jakes. He's went from fat to jacked. You know, he really got it. He dialed his shit in. He is locked in. He's just crushing it. He's actually, him and I kind of go back and forth. We talk a lot of shit, but we're also like, it's the healthiest competition ever. But he shared something, and I recently saw something before I jumped on here from Matt Stevens, who's insane bodybuilder. He'll be going pro, and I'm calling within the next 2 years. And shout out to Matt if you heard me. So when I look at these two, they both shared something along the lines of, if you don't pick up the weight today, it's heavier tomorrow.
Yeah.
And when you look at that through the lens of parenting, if you don't put these reps in with your kids today, as early as possible, it's only going to be harder to connect with them and deal with all of the trauma and all the buildup and all the issues later in life. And so when I saw that from Lift, I mean, everything in my head, dude, it's parenting. It's through family, it's through parenting, it's through authenticity, the things we spoke about today. I run it through kind of that filter. And so when I saw that, of course, I'm like, yeah, like, let's get jerked. But I also thought, man, what about all the weights these men have to lift after being such a lazy dad, a weak dad for however many years? Now they've got to build that muscle. With you in the position you're at, you know, you're in the beginning. You're 7 months into this, and you've been paying attention to it from the beginning. And so, like you said, like, oh, I saw there was another idea. And again, Anthony and I, we asked some of the questions we ask because we're trying to find a better way to connect as well. And so it's almost like live market research. We're like, how do we reach the dads? How do we reach the young dads and say things in a way that'll get them to understand why we're saying what we're saying? Because peaceful parenting is thrown into the category of weakness. But if you were to just put the three of us into a fucking ring and bring in whomever, you wouldn't be like, oh, those men are weak. No, because being a father who doesn't hit your kids has nothing to do with not being physically strong, mentally strong, or spiritually strong. And so when you go through this, are you thinking about the later years while you're in the moment in these 7-month-old, and you're like, all right, I want to be the dad when she's a teenager who has a relationship like this? And sort of, is that shaping your programming to how you're interacting and the way you're going to go about? I mean, obviously at 7 months old, the interactions are minimal, but let's say you're planning for, what will I do when she's 3 years old and spills this? What will I do when she's 5 years old and she punches that kid in the head? You know, are you doing that? What is the scenario to prepare yourself for these situations?
No, 100%. We talk a lot about mental reps, and that's from football. That's from what you guys are saying as well. Like sharing your stories, talking about these things online, it gives everyone an opportunity for a mental repetition, right? They're not in that scenario at the second, but how would I respond in that scenario? Oh, that's how they said they'll respond. This is why, like, okay, there's another tool I have, right? I don't have to go resort to what I'm used to. And yeah, my daughter, 7 months old, but she's an agent of chaos, and destruction. And these are her mantras. So I'm looking forward to the battles later on. But yeah, I'm always kind of trying to think about that, and get some solutions because I love having the discussion, the philosophical part of it. There is a lot of roots to these problems that stem from pain and lack of good upbringing. And that's important to address. But it's also important to address like, okay, but then what are the tools? What are the solutions I use in the moment, right? And so I follow a bunch of different parents and a bunch of different people that are talking about it for a different perspective. And really just adding tools to the tool belt so that I don't, in the moment, emotionally react and resort to what I'm used to because I haven't thought it out. I haven't made it a priority, right? Because that's what you do when you're in that scenario. If you don't make something a priority and something bad, an event occurs in your life regarding that topic, and you'll just fight or flight, and then you will go to what you're used to, right? What would happen to you or whatever, right? Because you haven't thought through this process of what you're going to do here. And rather, I say we should be, like I said, intentional responses, right? Not emotional reactions, but intentional responses. And you can only get that intentional response if you have something to offer. If you've thought about it before, if you have like, oh, I don't have to go resort to whatever else. You can analyze the triggers like, okay, I'm getting mad, whatever, I'm getting to this place. And now I can, pause. How do I add these things instead of, harm my kid? Because we don't think about the lesson that is being taught directly in that moment when you're hitting them or whatever else the case may be. If it's a negative outcome, right? We just think they're not doing what I need. And that's why I like having these conversations with you guys. There's so many different topics and, it all stems a lot to ego and our feelings rather than like the kids. It almost has nothing to do with the kid in a lot of places. It's just how we want to be perceived and our need to be the head of the household and iron fist and respected, and that is weakness. It's not hitting your kids. The weakness is letting your mental state affect how you're going to raise your kids, your need
that
for
right there, that little piece right there, that was the nugget, because I'm thinking about these younger guys. I'm thinking about these guys who don't have kids yet. How do you reach and speak to them? That right there, you have to get that shit locked in now. So when you're with your kid, you're not going to go through all these emotional outbursts and all this destruction within the home. You're not going to have a conflictive relationship because you're fixed it now with yourself. And if you can find peace here, you can give it. And if you don't live it, you can't give it. That's one of the fucking like little quips I've been going with, is letting these guys know you have to live this. And that, as you said, that controlled sense of inner peace, not always flying off, not always being emotional, that we have to harness now. So even though you're not a dad, finding peace does not make you weak. It's stronger. That's harder to do, to face the things that scare you, the things that are hard, the things that maybe embarrass you. Facing that stuff is what's going to give you strength, which allows you to have peace. We are peaceful men, but it's in the sense of being like a nice guy. When I'm nice to you, that's a choice. I don't have to be nice. I have a lot of other tools in my arsenal, but the nice guys, the weak men, they have no other tool. They have to be like manipulative and sneaky and very kind, with like a male feminist. Like, I'm here, I support women, but they're always the ones who you see the cases against,
trying to get
misconduct and all that shit, dude. And so whatever, man, like we can get banned. I've already said fuck like 30 times, so we're already on the list.
Just a crumb, madam. Just a crumb of
that's it. And so I'm saying, they try to conflate that with this, but I'm always like a hard fuck no, because that's not the case. That's not how we're raising ourselves. We have found peace through doing hard work. And so I'm really dig what you just said there. I'm gonna actually have to timestamp this shit to come back to that.
Yeah, 100%.
Tim, you said something.
A lot of things, Anthony.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. So, and on that point, I'll give you some marriage advice since we're talking about parenting.
Let's do it.
Make sure, I know you're new at marriage. Make sure you listen and you're not always talking and telling your wife how it has to be.
That is important.
No, but you said before about parents hurting their kids and they're not even aware that they're hurting them. And we get this argument all the time, right? We get guys who talk about, but they need discipline. You have to hit them. You have to spank them. You have to get their attention. You have to punish them. And it just made me think about there is a name for that, right? People who hurt somebody else they don't realize that they're hurting the other person. They're called crazy people. In the court of law, in the court of law, if your defense was, I didn't know, I'm legally insane, I didn't know I killed that person, I didn't know I harmed that person. This is what we're resorting to. This is how bad our parenting has become.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally claiming the insanity plea. When we sit down, the three of us get together on a dad's day and we say, hitting your kid causes harm or causes abuse. And they say, well, we don't think so. I don't see it like that. You're insane. You're literally pleading the case insanity.
They insist you haven't thought it through, you
Yeah.
know, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I think just that's a really, you illustrated it well, because you might not think it, like it wasn't this grand thing. You didn't murder anybody, but it is on a micro scale. You are letting your emotions take over in a lot of cases, right? Not every case. People, like, there's balances, but in a lot of times that abuse comes from like, dinner isn't on the table by 5. Like whatever. Like you're just using.
Dude, you're not going to intimidate your daughter with that face.
Dude, you know what I love? And Tim, I
even
say this with the greatest of respect, because I do it too. I have a hard time coming up with those scenarios in my head too, because I don't do them. You're like, and they get mad about, what do people get mad about?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You can't come up with something
when are you
because
not
you
the
don't live
adult?
that shit.
Like, no, 100%.
Well,
like,
what do you do when your daughter's 7 months now?
Yeah.
So when she's misbehaving, being really bad, like she wakes up for a nap early without you telling her, or she drools on the floor, or she doesn't want to eat the food that's in front of her. Like, how do you deal with that without getting so angry and frustrated?
Well, I feel like it was hard for you to even bring those examples, because for a toddler, like, how is that misbehaving, right? Like that's what a toddler does. Like that's how they act, right? And I feel like if really just if you let those things get to you and let them manipulate you to the point where you're going to act, out of character, I would hope that's not your character, your true nature, to just confrontationally hit your kids or whatever else it is. But if you have that little control on your reality, you just let things in your life take your full attention. Like, what are you doing? Are you an adult? Like, you are the adult in this relationship. That is a child. They are learning, right? And I find it hard to believe, and I mean I don't, because it's evident in society, but I just feel like isn't everybody trying to be better? Isn't everyone trying to like look at their problems, look at their past, and not just react emotionally off the cuff? I know on the freeway or whatever you get cut off, no holds barred, but in general, like.
Well, that's because you're young, brother. When I was 20, I used to chase people down too. Now I'm like, see you later. Fuck you. Good job.
Yeah. I hope it's not lost. You made a point there, but I think for the masses, and maybe I'm doubting the viewers, and if so, fucking downvote us, whatever. But when Anthony said, don't downvote, they don't show them anyway, because Biden dropped something and they were pissed off. They didn't want people to see how pissed they were. Tim, when Anthony was bringing those examples up, he specifically chose them, waking up from a nap, drooling. He did so because exactly your response. What do you expect a toddler to do? Take those examples, and I know I brought it up. We've had enough of these discussions, and put it on the child. The kid who doesn't want to just sit still for 3 hours at the restaurant while you guys drink and eat your food. Hey, sit down, kid. Be a good kid. The kid's being a child. You have him pinned in a place he doesn't want to be. Let him move his body. The kid who's out there playing outside and accidentally throws a ball through a window. The kid was throwing a ball. Why are you losing your shit? The kid who maybe doesn't want to eat the food. The kid's testing things out. He doesn't want something right now. When kids act like kids, adults act like children. That is the issue. The adult has the temper tantrum. And so it blew your mind, because you're like, yeah, that's what a toddler's going to do. Yeah, but think about the 4-year-olds who are getting spanked for being 4-year-olds, and the 6-year-olds who are getting yelled at for being 6-year-olds, and the 10-year-olds who are getting smacked around because they're not acting like they're 25. That's what the world these kids are facing. And so your answer highlighted a pretty important point. To prioritize our children and to prioritize, raising children properly, we have to make it a priority that we're addressing the inner issues that we have within ourselves. We have to make it a top, I must get this shit done priority, like now, of dealing with the past, of dealing with the stresses that come up. And so for many, maybe it's not that they were beaten or abused or anything of their past. maybe they've been blowing all their money on fucking whatever people are blowing their money on these days. Boats. What are people buying, dude? Gasoline, I guess. What if you don't have your financial house in order and you're stressed out from bills? If you're freaking out because you don't know how to properly talk to your wife and your bedroom is dead, and so you're sexually frustrated, these frustrations that are going on in marriages, if you're not right with God and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know where my place is. I don't fit in with the community. I've got no love. I don't know the point of life. This stress is taken out on kids. And if you don't make it a top priority to check those things off and deal with them, then you are not prioritizing your kids because they're getting the worst version of you.
You're carrying around all that baggage and all you're just exporting it on your kids. Oh, I suck
then you
at life.
flip out because they spilled the water. Exactly.
It's crazy. And I think it's important that we all do that. We all realize these triggers we have in life. Like just because your life isn't where you want it to be and you can be frustrated, but that doesn't mean you lash out at other people, right? You handle it internally. You deal with your shit. And it's important you address these things before they are thrust upon you, if you can, right? We're not perfect. It's going to happen, but have the foresight, don't let that all that blow up on people that don't know your story, that don't deserve that attitude, right? You need to have these things in place. That's why I talk about mental repetitions, because it's important to put yourself in that scenario. How would you react? Okay, review that. Do you like how you reacted? What do you think that's going to do for the other party involved? Is that the message you want to have? Is that the message you want to share? And if it's not, do the legwork. It's important. If you want to raise your kids, if you love your kids and everything, then make sure that you're not, having these unintentional consequences. And they're growing up with these subconscious needs and lack of approval problems because you didn't take the time to teach them the right lesson in the moment, right? And that's when I talk about making it a priority. It's easy, at least for men, right? We talk about this a lot. It's easy for men to prioritize providing. It is a natural urge. We want to provide for our family. When people talk about generational wealth and all they think about is the checkbook, all they think about is a bank account, giving my kids opportunities that I didn't have. But there's so much more to generational wealth than that. Is your family better off with their, physicality, with their spirituality, with their philosophy, and their love, their trust and everything. There's so many more levels to health and success and opportunity. You need to give them the tools they need to navigate the world, not just the finances to do it, because we've seen that doesn't raise good kids. That doesn't propagate the next generation of good humans, good leaders. Right. That's how we're in the crap hole we're in now. There's a bunch of just bad people up there, that don't have.
Notice he just turned his hat backwards. I hope you noticed that. I've never seen him do that before. So I don't know what's coming.
Now hats backwards.
Game on, boys. No, so I got the fan running and it keeps putting it's drying my eyes out. I'm not crying.
I bet.
So I just had to move
that was a beautiful story, Tim.
I didn't want to leave the hair out. So, but it's also high speed, low drag. It's time to do some work because we got a question from the chat. It says, also, great answer. This is why I wanted you in Oak and Rock. That was a solid answer. Don't let the hat take away from that. Smoking Tires 93. He says, what are your best practices for balancing self, hobbies, and activities with spending time with kids and family activities? Tim first, and then Anthony.
Yeah, sure. Best practices for balancing self. So, it's about what's your priority and have you taken the time to think about that? If your family is a priority, if all the things you need to get done for them is a priority, you will take the time to do a schedule. It's all about how you're devoting your time. It's easy to give time to mindlessly scrolling. It's easy to binge whatever else, all this self-serving time use. But when you take the time to realize you can become a time lord, like a time wizard. You can if you analyze these things, you can get a lot done. You just have to use your time efficiently, right? If it's important to you, you will make a schedule to benefit that, right? I've seen people get up at one of the guys I know gets up at 3 a.m. so he can get his workout in. He can get all the stuff he needs to get done in for himself. And then he just does his job, and then he has time and energy for his family, right? He goes to bed earlier, but it's you can cultivate the life you want. You can have that balance. You just have to prioritize it and want to have it enough where you can, okay, this time I'm going to do this, right? And there is a balancing act. You need to have time for your hobbies, but you also, I think, you can get a lot of those things in with the family as well, depending on the activity, depending on the kid's age range. I'm huge into nerd stuff and board games, and I look forward to sharing that with my kids. And I can get something out of that. They can get something out of that. We'll have a great time together, So anytime you can stack wins like that, double dip, like that is essential. That obviously will save you a lot of time as well.
So that is very efficient. Your use of word, I don't know if you took a breath. That was good. And, so the first time guest, again, you've been a speaker on Dad's Day for a lot, but the way your composure and your delivery of the message is spot, like Smoking Tires didn't say, hey,
somebody
man, here's
asked
a
him a
bullet point in the
question that
question
he
I'm going to
doesn't
ask.
know.
So well done. That's good to field it in that manner. Something I want to point out before we get into Anthony, when we were just talking, we were talking about you got to prioritize the family. You've got to deal with these issues within yourself. Not rarely, but not often do we think about you need to get alone time to go and do what you want to do as well, away from them. And that's not at the expense of the family. You're not with them, but you're charging yourself up. Anthony, you've got a great phrase, something about kings and cups. I don't know. I'm going to let you drop it. But I just want to remind, what Smoking Tires said, and Smoking Tires is rock solid. He has actually been on the podcast. We're going to have to get him back on. He's going through some big things. He's an awesome dude. But when he brought it up and, when he angled that question, I'm like, it's really good to have that balance, because sometimes you do come across on work, grind, push, prioritize the family. It's never spoken, but to me, a part of that is making yourself a priority to be somebody you like and to treat yourself like somebody you like. And that means going and doing things you like to do for you, specifically and selfishly for you, to make you just feel better as a man. Anthony, though, I think Smoking Tire specifically said he'd like to hear your input on this.
Yeah, let's go.
There's not evidence like right there, but go off.
I think time is a human construct. No, really.
Right, Socrates.
If you're having a problem with prioritizing that balance within your life between yourself, what you need to do, and your kids, it's usually because you're fucking up and you're not spending that time in the right areas. It's like if you were 300 pounds overweight and you went to go run a mile, right? It's going to take me a lot faster to run it than a person who's out of shape. It's the same thing, right, with our life. If you constantly find that you're under pressure and you can't do what is needed to be done, if other men are talking about that they did it or they're doing it, you can do it as well. You just have to follow, I don't want to say in their footsteps, but you have to follow the mindset. We all get the same amount of time during the day. If there are men who can balance a job, who can get their ass to the gym, who can take care of their family and have it be quality time, anybody could do it, right? If I could do it, if Zach could do it, if Tim could do it, Smoking Tires can do it. So I think it's just a matter of perspective, thinking that you don't have time, right? Thinking that there's not enough time. How can I do this? You're almost setting yourself up for failure instead of waking up in the morning and saying, hey, man, I got this. I'm going to handle it, right? I got plenty of time to do what I have to do.
Yeah, in football they taught us, because we had to go to study groups and everything as freshmen and everything. So they break down for you. You have I forget the exact time. So you have 180 or so hours in the week, right? And they literally break down, let's say they're very generous. Let's say you get 8 hours of sleep. I know you guys aren't. Let's say they give you all these leniencies, like an hour for food, 2 hours, whatever, right? And you realize you have a lot of time in the day, more than you think, right? So when you take the time to look at that, then you can kind of do a little inventory of where am I donating my time and my energy? The energy is an important part too, because if you have the time and you're there, but you're drained, you're not present, you're just blank face, you're not there with your kids see that. Your kids can pick up on that. Are they important to you? Do you love them? Do you want to have that connection? Being there isn't enough. You need to be engaged, so it's important, that time and energy as well.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, you were talking about being 300 pounds, Anthony. What would you have to do to get yourself from 300 to 180? You have to prioritize your health. You have to prioritize what it is you eat. All right. What would you do if you're trying to get out of debt? You'd have to prioritize where you're spending your money. Well, if you're looking to improve your relationship with the community, with God, with whatever, you'd have to go to those places and connect. And so what we're saying is, if you want to prioritize your children, you've got to put yourself in a position where you are connecting with them in a manner that allows you and child get to where you both are growing as individuals and as a family. You have to make it a top priority, but you can't give something you aren't living. You cannot give them a healthy life if you're not willing to be somebody who's living a healthy life. Be at a healthy weight. I'm not going to have somebody who's 300 pounds overweight talk to me about what I should eat. They don't know. They're not living it. And even if they're a certified nutritionist, they're not following their own advice. So even if you do know everything, you're not going to get the respect. I will write you off before we even have the conversation. And so individuals have to understand like how you carry yourself is important. And you might be a dad who means well, but if you aren't put together and putting yourself in a position to do the things with the kid, then you aren't well. You might want to be a great dad. I love my kids so much, but yeah, dude, you're winded standing up from the chair, and you can't get yourself to a point where you'll stop going to the pizza and start going to, the fucking vegetables, just something that's healthier. And so you're going to die an earlier death. You're not going to live a full life. You can't walk to the top of mountains with those kids. You can't hike. You can't do the things that they want you to do, like monkey bars. And so as much as you want to say that you love them, you aren't living like you love them. And so this plays back to acta non verba. It's the deeds.
Never heard that.
Don't tell me that
you French. Oh.
Don't tell me that you love your kids more than anything. Show me.
I'll die for my kids. No, and Zach, the great thing about that, right, is when you go from 300 pounds to 180, it's not that you're figuring out how to solve the time problem. It's at 300 pounds, it was difficult and hard as hell to get your ass to the gym. It felt like it was taking a lot of time. Now at 180, you don't even think about the time. You're thinking about what can I do to go.
It's no longer something you do. It's who you are.
Yeah. No, that's the huge mind shift. Not trying to be that person, but in your core believing, no, I am the person. I am a runner. And then you're just like doing, what does a runner do? And this is what they do. It feels more natural. You don't feel like a hypocrite. If you just want to try something, you'll try it and you won't, continue it. Right. Yeah. This is pretty, this whole conversation about the weight and everything is pretty relevant to me. I'm an lineman. So the weight was encouraged. Right. And it's like 300 plus pounds and 6'5", whatever. And it's like, now I'm at the point where it's like, I grew up a certain way. I grew up what they would say obese and everything. And I was a fat kid. And then football gave me an incentive to still be fat and to out eat everybody. Right. I took that as a personal thing. I can right. And so it's about breaking that unhealthy relationship with food. And I'm an athlete, so I love working hard. I'll bust my ass for 3 hours a day, if I have to. But it's like, that can only take me so far. That's not going to teach my kids healthy habits. I'm making it a priority now to learn a healthy relationship with food, a healthy balance, and a healthy way to lose weight and to sustain it, changing lifestyles rather than a fad diet, right? Because I've done one meal a day. I've burnt, I've worked really hard throughout the day, and I could drop like 40 pounds. Like, I can do it pretty fast. I've done it before, but that's not sustainable. And that's not something I want to teach my kids. I want to teach them like why we're eating the right food. What's the lesson behind it? We talk about that a lot. Like, what are you trying to teach them? Right. And it's like, for me, that healthy relationship, you don't have to finish your plate. Those kids in Africa will be fine. I promise you. Like,
oh, no.
And different things like that, right? Just not feeling like you need to be absolutely full every meal. Right. So
Tim doesn't do that to his daughter, just to be clear.
Oh, God. You shouldn't get formula or breast milk. She gets protein powder.
You eat that food. Do you know how many kids died today because they didn't get food?
Well, people ask all the time, like, oh, you're 6'5", you're huge. How'd that happen? It's like, no, I didn't eat my vegetables every day. I was breastfed till I was 9. That's how it happened. So if you care about your kids,
Dude, loves his titties. Oh my God.
No, so I want to go back to Zach's to Smoking Tires question. So if you can think about it, what everybody was talking about with the time management or not wasting time. When you parent intentionally and you prioritize your kids, the time you have with them doesn't feel like it's wasted. You don't have to make up any time. You can, even if it's an hour, 2 hours, it becomes more about the value and what you're giving in those moments. So then when you say, hey kids, I need to go do something for dad, I need to go hit the gym, the kids enjoyed the time that they had with you. There's nothing lost. You can leave the situation and not feel guilty. You can go out and do what's good for you because you know that in that moment, that time wasn't wasted. It was spent intentionally, directly, and you were open and connected with your kids. So when we think of time and that we're wasting it or not spending it or balancing it in the right way, a lot of it is because it's not done honestly and in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and as far as like a practical example, with my 7-month-old, it's sometimes like Zach was saying how it's not as mobile, right? She has more immediate direct needs, but for me, I still am trying to build a habit of every day taking the time to intentionally like play with her for like a while, right? And she's trying to learn to crawl right now, right? And she's getting so dang close, but she gets frustrated because she'll get in the crawling position, she'll rock back and forth. and then she'll just get pissed, and she's like, "Why aren't I going anywhere?" But I'll like go on the floor, and I'll again, like, leading by example, like teaching your kids, and I'll crawl around. I'm like, "Hey, come here. This is how you do it, right?" And she's getting there. I like any day now. We're excited for it. But that
encouragement works. Modeling behavior, that works. All right.
Leading by example, positive reinforcement. Weird.
Crazy stuff. Who would have thought?
Wild, dude.
If you don't start crawling, there's going to be no dinner tonight. That usually.
Right. That'll get them. That'll get them. No, but that's an important side of it. Getting on their level, showing them literally how to do the things in some cases. Right. And that positive encouragement is huge, because if you're using these negative resources, just because they work doesn't mean you're getting the right lesson. They're just doing it because whatever fear system, authoritative system you've set up, they feel like they'll get hurt emotionally, physically, if they don't do the thing. And that doesn't teach them the lesson of like why it's right or wrong to do the thing, why this is important for, a person to do. Right. All that. We
have a lot of young men who they view family as something basically to avoid or settling, so either if I get married, that means I've got to slow down and, life gets boring and drab and dull. Dude, I want you to know, and I'm saying this shit fucking live, seeing how you're doing this, seeing you at 24, I had my son, Jackie and I had our son at 22. And I remember 22, 23, laying on the ground in the apartment with two of my sailors. So two Navy buddies, like top tier, in shape, squared away dudes, and we're laying on the ground, rolling over with my son, trying to get him to roll over, because he would go and like the shoulder would keep him, and like it sounds like your daughter's like, right at that point where the shoulder can't just like get over.
Yep.
And there were three sailors. We're just doing it, and when he finally did it, we lost our minds, dude. It's like we won the World Series or Super Bowl. We
like the moon landing or something, like launch successful, like huge thing.
I always thought it was so cool that us younger men, motivated military, our families were together. I always thought there was something really badass about how we were rallying around kids, and like the kids were a part of it. And we still did our badass shit, but we were around the kids. And I was like, that's really freaking cool. And seeing that through you, and seeing you getting down, you and your wife getting down and having this fun, dude, that shit fills me with motivation on a level that I cannot fucking accurately describe, because that's what right looks like, man. And you have no idea the type of example you're setting. And for people that are going to watch this, they're like, yo, 24, like, maybe it's not locking down. Maybe it's not the ball and chain. Maybe it's not giving up. Maybe this is some next level shit. And maybe I can create something that's beautiful, and I can bring that out there, and I can have a long-term relationship with a woman while we raise the lives that we bring into this world, and we can be happy. We can go forward and live a great, fulfilling life together for fucking decades. And we can raise these children to become kings and queens, or fucking just champions, or whatever you want to call them. Just beautiful human beings that are well connected. And they're going to advance at a level because they're not being bogged down with your issues. Your children are not going to have to live out your unfulfilled dreams. They get to live their life, and they've got a fucking powerhouse of a mother and father clearing a path so they can learn until they can get their feet. And then when they get their feet under them, you're parallel, and they're walking with you, and they got their own little machete, and they're whacking around. You're making sure there's no big animals, but you're clearing the path. And then eventually you guys pull back and you start walking, and they're going on their own, whacking away, finding their things, seeing little animals, chopping their heads off, going forward and doing their thing.
So vivid.
That's your fucking, keep rolling with it. I'm still going, that's what you're building, dude. That is it. Like, I don't want that. Like, we joke a lot because that's what the fuck we do. But in all seriousness, you are living a great fucking life, and you're going at it hard. And I know you are going to have some shit coming your way with the job, with her school, with finishing your school. It's going to be hard, but that's a part of the process, man. Anthony and I have faced some hard shit, but never once did we turn our back on our fucking family. They're a part of it. You'll get through it together. When it's hard, you'll lean on each other. Jackie and I have butted heads. Me and the kids have butted heads. That's a part of it, but never was it a personal issue. It was always just too much stress on me, or they were having a bad day and they came after me. It's not always a dad thing. Sometimes I'm the victim. I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys? And so you got to figure it out. But dude, I just want you to know you're doing it right. I look forward to many more conversations like this, and importantly, we've got the Dad's Day. We've got this. I hope your wife sees, or she has an idea as to how many other men's lives you're impacting by doing this, because that time away from the baby, it's important for her to know that it means something. And so when 100%. You get off of this, you better pick her ass up and give her a big hug. And because I haven't heard anything, so she's got either the baby's still sleeping.
No, they went for a walk. All
right, so see, I'm just saying, make sure It's fucking
Oh, I
beautiful
treat her
to
well.
prove you're
She
doing
gets-
it and
You
where you're
didn't
going
see
with
him.
She gets.
You didn't see him point and like get out.
No, that's the nail on the head, man. It's, I wanted to be a football coach for a long time because I'm so passionate about that community. I'll still advocate for football. I think it's great and gives men without purpose something great to strive for. Gives men without role models good role models. But I found like what stopped me was the time commitment, because oftentimes these football coaches, they spend more time with the team than they do their own families, their kids. There's a lot of sacrifice, and they talk about it, and that's why that relationship is so close, because of the time commitment and the care behind that. And I was like, I love that environment, but I don't know if it's right for me because it will put my relationship with my kids in jeopardy, right? And I want that to be a priority. And I've found I can have both. I can engage in this community. I can lead other men and whoever else. A lot of this advice will apply to general people just getting their shit together, and I can have a broader impact with this space than just being a football coach of whatever local place and having to move every 2 years and having that affect my family, right? I think you can balance it, but I don't want to go through that stuff. I'd rather just make this a priority, develop the habits I need, so when the times get tough, I have a structure. I have something to go back to that I can put in place, and I'm not sacrificing family time, right? And so I feel called to, like I said, do this whole thing, talk with you guys, talk with other people. We lead by example, whether we intend to or not, and we're always going to leave interactions. They're going to either take something positive or negative with their interaction with us. So always try to talk to people in life, online, and I always somehow slip in, hey, fatherhood. Hey, are you good, Dad?
That's awesome. No, but listen, I think there's a reason why things happen. Obviously, there's a reason, but why people come together, why men come together. And there is a misconception about what some of the things we do and what we talk about, right? I don't want to be around guys who agree with me all the time. That's not what we do, right? We're thinking deeply about important issues. And I sure as hell don't want to be around the guy who's like, oh, Tim, you're a new dad. Wait till the terrible twos. Then you're going to be really fucking stressed. Wait till when they turn 3. Oh, it's even worse than 2. Wait till they're 10. You're going to lose your shit. Your wife's going to hate you. Wait till they're teenagers. You guys are going to get divorced. I don't want to be around guys that's their mindset. I want to be around guys who are saying, hey, man, what the fuck did you do? Right? I'm stressed out. I need some help. Or, hey, man, this is what I've done. This is how I've overcome it. It doesn't have to agree with my life philosophy. It's just another area where men are growing. So a lot of people think we all get together and we sing Kumbaya and we're talking about being good dads.
We don't do that.
We do that often.
It's not exclusive.
Yeah,
that's not what it's about, man. We are doing strong and powerful shit that generations of men have never put forth that task. They've never done it. This hasn't been done in history, right? We haven't said, how could we be the best fathers? How could we lead our own life? How could we be free men? How could we be good husbands? I mean, God forbid, right? God forbid we talk about that. So it's great to see. And I just wanted to make it clear that so there's no confusion, right? We don't sing Kumbaya. I don't even know the words. But we are talking
about the words.
You said it right there.
I think my Lord is in there. But I mean, that's about it.
Nah, man.
Tim.
Yeah.
It's been a solid session. Where, if people are looking to touch base, if you have any closing words, and where can people find you if they're looking to touch base, maybe get one-on-one coaching or pick your brain about something that they heard and they would like to dive a little deeper into? What's the best way for them to go about doing that?
For sure. So as far as, closing words, everyone that's going to see this, you devoted time to watch this, I would say get something out of it. If you take anything out of it, just you do have the power to see the change you want in your life. Don't fall into the trap or, I don't believe in myself. I can't actually do that. Things aren't within my control. No, they are. Right. And that could be a scary task. That could be something scary to think about. I just had a newsletter that went out today talking about accountability, where it's like viewing that and where you're at in life. Like, no, yes, I was dealt a hand, but I played that hand a certain way, and that has led to these outcomes, right? So while that can be scary because you might not like where you are now, when you take the time to have that realization, you can realize you now have the power to change course, right? You play the hand you're dealt, and you're going to fail sometimes, but if you learn from that, you can start winning. And as soon as you start winning with that hand, you can start stacking the deck, right? You can determine what hand you're going to get next, what hand your kids are going to have, and how they're going to play with those things. So it's important to have those tools in your belt and realize you can have that effect. You can have that change. If you need help with any of that, because it is a daunting task, You know, it's not easy to go by yourself. People have questions. If we don't humble ourselves and realize we don't know everything, no one can. If someone tells you they do, get away from that person. They know less than most, you know. So when we can take the time to humble ourselves and look to these other resources, you know, the internet is a brilliant place. Tip of your fingertips, so much information. You just have to make it a priority and want to look, you know. So find someone with similar core values, find someone that's where you're at, where you want to be, or that has accomplished something that you want to accomplish, and then talk to them, learn from them, be a human being, you know. So if you need help with any of these things because they're troublesome, there's a link in the description that has like links to all my things that I do. I'm doing life coaching. We're trying to build that business online. I have some clients I'm working with right now. I've actually developed like not FOE, but the Men of the Forge. You know, that's what I called it. It's a place where I think iron sharpens iron. We hold each other accountable. Today was weigh-in day, right? We're trying to do, we have different goals. And so creating that environment and that community of men like this, or like FOE, like a football locker room where we can all share and talk about these things and learn from each other. That
Did you almost say the V word?
Did I? I lost it. But yeah, so there's that where we're doing, I can help you with that personally. I have a podcast where I talk about other things as well, entertainment, philosophy, religion. If you're more curious to pick my brain, a lot of thoughts of what I believe and why are on there. I think that's part of this whole thing as well, you know, analyzing that core foundation and having a reason, you know, to believe that will stand up to criticism, not just saying something, but being about it, right? So yeah, there's that. There's the news, all sorts of stuff, links, and you can find my Twitter, everything it's all on that one single link. So click on that. You can see my works. I'd love to have you build a relationship and hear your perspective, you know, because I think that's how we can kind of affect these things in life. We're all listening to people with different backgrounds and different worldviews, and we can adjust like, hey, this is what I found. This is how I want to deal with the problem. What do you think? Okay, that's not good because of this, or that's a great thing I haven't heard of, you know. That's how we start fixing things. That's how we start solving these problems. So yeah, I'm glad to be a part of this community, glad to be building something great. I don't think the age is a limiter. You know, one of my teachers talked to me one time about all the great philosophers in Greek and all the people that are great conquerors. They were doing these things like in 20s, like early 30s, like whatever, right?
Get out of here with that.
Listen, I'll say this, man. I've always hated. I was told this at the earliest memories I have. I was told to just wait. You know, when I was 19 and crushing it, oh, just wait. When I married Jackie at 21, oh, you just wait. You know, you're too young. No, I'm not. When I had kids at 22, just wait. Wait till you're 30. I've been told to just wait the entire time, and every time I'm saying, get fucked. I'm not waiting for anything. I'm living today. Today 100%. Is all I have, so I'm doing everything I can do today. Just wait for what? You know, like why? You came on here, and Anthony, I knew your age. Anthony found out your age. The entire time we've been doing Dad's Day and all the things we've been doing, I've known that. I think it came up at one point. Anthony just wasn't listening.
Yeah.
You had shared that.
I thought it was like 60.
No, dude. I think I said this then too. I was like, good. At that age, good. Get after it. I see you've got some movement in the background. The family's back.
Oh, yeah. Big Rumpus house.
Listen, at 24, I cannot wait to see the trajectory you're on because you know more than I knew. So I said at 22, we had ours. So just a little bit before you, but I didn't have this at all. You have this. You've got Anthony and I is like rocket boosters right there. Like, what do you need to know, man? Like, we're years ahead of this, so we can tell you what we knew for you to get this faster, and then you can help the next dude behind you. And when they're telling you, like, oh, what do I do? You're like, hey, I started out with peaceful parenting. I started out with Oak and Rock Fatherhood. I started out rolling with a bunch of dudes. I had a tribe the whole time. I stayed focused. I balanced it with my marriage. I paid attention to all of this shit. Dude, you've got all the fucking tools. I want every 24-year-old man to have that. I want every 20-year-old to have that. I want to break that down to every 18-year-old has that. Every 15-year-old has that. And they have the tools. I'm not saying to have kids at 15, but I'm saying you've got the tools to what it is to be a good dad and how to change the trajectory and how to set a new standard for what we're doing here. And what we're trying to do is make strong families at a younger age. We don't need to be fixing families. Let's start them out right by being good dads, by setting a good example. That's what you're doing, brother. I'm going to start a whole new fucking episode if I don't
Let's
stop.
do it. Roll into
so
it. Next week.
Pull it back. I keep doing
listen, we got a lot dependent on you, Tim. Don't let us down.
Don't fuck
Hey.
this up.
Weight on the shoulders. That's great, man.
No, I'm
that's
just
what it's all
kidding. You're a
about.
strong dude. Hey, I appreciate your time. I know you've got the family to get to. Thank you for coming on. I'll be talking to you tomorrow on Dad's
we'll be
Day.
talking to you in a
Let's
few
do.
hours.
I'll see you guys in
So,
12 hours.
Tim, thank you. Anthony, another one down,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
To everybody who tuned in, make sure you've liked and subscribed. This is what we do. Let's normalize talking fatherhood. Let's normalize prioritizing children. You do that by liking, subscribing, and spreading the good word. The more people we talk about this, the more we grow, the more normal it becomes. You guys have a great night. Again, thank you for tuning in and stay well.